Alright, I wanted my first video back to be something a bit more special, right? But I feel like this will do because this is Conquering Sorrow, and I know a thing or two about this, especially after last week. So, let's get this done, right? And my first piece of advice for this objective, like for this week of Spring of Sorrow, is to expect no solos. Just do not expect any solo at all. This Onslaught is tough. He is very annoying and he is going to cost you unless you are very good or you get enough practice tries in. So let's talk about this fight for a second. What exactly is going on here? So there is a node where whenever you dodge Onslaught to SP1, he gives you energy resistance buffs. Now this is good because it gives you resistance to his narrow shock. However, it's also bad because per energy resistance buff, he also lowers your physical resistance by a good chunk, and all of Onslaught's contact attacks, or the attacks where he hits you, those are physical, right? And it's not challenging per se, but it's just like if you do get hit by, let's say you're trying to intercept him and he hits you, it's going to be very, very lethal. But the narrow shocks are kind of just not really a major factor in this fight. Now, what else is there? Well, there's also Pass the Buck, where whenever you go over a bar of power, you get a power sting inflicted on yourself, but if you intercept, you place it onto Onslaught. So, intercepts are favored in this matchup because there is also Heavy Hitter, where Onslaught, whenever he is doing a heavy attack, he is unstoppable. Now, the most important node, and this one is honestly both helpful and harmful, it is the Dulled node. And what that node does is, it decreases your crit rate per buff on you or debuff on Onslaught. Now, this is bad because you do less damage, but it's also pretty good because that means the narrow shocks will apply a lot less often. Now, I think that's about it. I might be forgetting an important node. He does have an armor up, which is fine. It's just a bit more tankiness for him. There's also Stylish, but it doesn't really come into play because with Stylish, it's based on doing critical hits, but you never really crit Onslaught in this fight. So now let's talk about the counters. So the first objective here is a 2021 hero, and Hercules fits the bill. So my first piece of advice is to use Hercules first, right? Because Hercules is one of the safest champions out there, and he's really good for this fight because he has access to Infuriate. Now, without Infuriate, Onslaught has one of the worst AIs in the game. Completely terrible. You can hardly intercept him, I feel like. But with the Infuriate, it makes it a whole lot easier, so he is one of the better options because of that Infuriate mechanic. So how do you want to do this fight? Well, you kind of just damage him, right? And this is where it gets a bit hard to explain this fight because it all comes down to what you're seeing on the screen right here. Dodging that special attack 1. So he's going to throw it right here, right? And he's gonna start it by jumping up, throwing those, metal shards at you. Then he ends it by doing it again, but just more, menacingly. But it's so hard to explain a dex, I'm being genuinely honest. So the only way to, really get this, right, is by going to practice mode, which is free. You can just, use as many attempts as you want. It's no energy. You just go to an Onslaught that you own. If you don't own one, then I am sorry because it's going to be a lot worse for you. But yeah, just practice at SP1 decks, and once you feel pretty comfortable with it, then you'll get this fight done very, very, not easily, because it is a slog of a fight. With the dual node reducing a lot of your damage, it really does, suck. It's a very annoying fight. But other things that Onslaught has, let's talk about it in this fight right here with Photon. Now, this is a rank 3 Photon. This is the size medium Avengers objective. Yes, Photon is size medium. I checked it. I triple checked it. She is size medium. So let's talk about what else is going on here. So with Onslaught here, if you parry him or if he parries you, it's not good. You do not want to like parry him because he disables your willpower mastery if that happens. And if you're like running recall masteries, which honestly I suggest for anyone that has it, because the recall masteries, it makes this fight a whole lot faster. And like, the thing with Onslaught is if the fight keeps on going, there is more chances that you mess up the special attack dex, right? So you want to get it done as fast as possible. Now with the recall masteries, it boosts any character pretty well, obviously, but if you parry, your willpower mastery gets disabled and you start to take a ton of poison damage. So do not get parried. That is the biggest piece of advice. I should have said it earlier, but the Daunted will mess you up big time if you're running the recall masteries. That is the biggest piece of advice that I have, sorry. And besides that, every 10 hits you get a crush charge, or like he gets a dormant crush charge, right? If he initiates an attack with you, it will activate. If you drop a special attack, it goes away. So if you want, you don't have to do it because you can just play around the crush charge, but I would time your special attacks to where whenever he is about to gain the crush charge, your special attack is being launched and you never deal with the crush. However, if you're low on health and you trust yourself versus crush, I would just take the crush charge, use it as willpower healing, and there is your source of like extra health, because the neuroshocks will take you down a bit. But yeah, that's like also pretty important. But I think when it comes to important mechanics, that's about it. Now it's just down to you and intercepting pretty much, because intercepting gets rid of pass the buck. It's your only opening because of heavy hitter, and it's, you know, it's a challenge, right? Because this Onslaught's AI is one of the worst things I've ever seen in this game, and I've seen a lot of bad stuff in this game, but I think that Onslaught's AI just has to be it, because oh my gosh, I have to sit down for this. Give me a second. Okay, let's talk about it. This man hates you. Like, Onslaught just hates you, like, for some reason. It's annoying because like he just stands, like, he's a villain, right? He's meant to be not the nicest person out there, but this AI just isn't okay. Like right there, I got stand up intercepted. It's kind of ugly right now, right? But here's the thing, pass the buck and his crush charges actually heal you as long as you aren't daunted. That is the most important thing to realize, that if you are daunted, you have no access to willpower. So if you're running like Photon, I would just quit out. Because, I mean, no, don't quit out, because I said to not expect a solo, right? But just try to get as much damage in, like, as you can. And yeah, it's not going to be a solo if like if he like parries you, or like if you parry him. So just avoid parry at all cost. And yeah, we can just go continue this fight now. It's a slow one to Photon, and this is a rank 3 Photon, by the way, so like if you're using a rank 5 Ascended, please boost, because it is an absolute slog. There is a way to get 2 objectives done if you use Captain America Infinity War. Now, that one's a bit tougher because he is a parry champion, and like with heavy hitter, with, you know, parrying and like getting daunted, it's just not it's not a fun time. I think Photon is the best option. I don't want to say best option actually, because I might be forgetting someone. But yeah, the Avengers objective it's not friendly to anyone really. This fight is just such a slog, and you will never crit. You'll never have like a really strong source of like proper damage, unless you're the final character in this video, but more on that in a second, because I was honestly surprised. And the final objective, it does take like, it's a really specific setup, but it's honestly really worth it if you're like down to down to do it. But yeah, we're still in this fight. It's still very slow, but she's getting it done, and she's doing it like not well per se, but she's getting it done. But yeah, here he drops the SP1, no big deal, and here I go back in, I drop my own SP2, sorry. And yeah, he drops the SP1 here, and I think another reason why Photon is so good for this is because at base she has energy resistance, and also I got hit there, and this is going to be a clutch. Like, I have to really focus up here now. but the taunt makes this a whole lot better, because when he's taunted, he drops that SP1 like crazy, and it's just perfect. So that's why it's important to make sure that you have the SP1 dex down, because he's gonna drop it a lot of times. You are facing not just a 1 million health Onslaught, but you're facing him with 0 crits at all. So it becomes a whole different story when it's like that for most of these champions. So yeah, here he drops the SP1 again. I am down to like, what, 9% health. This is not looking good. This is not looking good, right? It's not looking good in the slightest. Here he's at 9% though, and yeah, we're so close. And here he just has to drop the SP1. There he does. We go for the dex. Just remember that you have to dodge all the beams, and I think they're all like in the same rhythm, which is good at least, except for the final one. That one's a bit more delayed. But yeah, like the 3 beams like in the middle, those are all like in the same rhythm. So just get that rhythm familiarized, and then you're kind of just chilling. But yeah, there I dropped the relic, and this solo I really had to work for, but it was worth it, right? And for proof that she is an objective, here is me getting the point, because yeah, she is size medium. I'm not lying to you, I promise. There you go. There's the objective. Now, this is the final one. This one is tough. This one can go very, very well, or you can just get dumpstered on. And that's the case for any Onslaught fight. 1 SP1 and you're kind of just like screwed. Like, yeah, with like the attack rating that Onslaught has, if you take a single SP1, especially for like my lower end folks that like don't have the like strongest characters to use like for this fight, yeah, it's just game over. But with Diablo here, he does have access to energy resistance. So with his like, what are they called? With his philosopher's, what is it? With like his mixes, like his drinks, one of them gives him energy res while he has the I'm sorry, I just do not know this character too well. Well, he has the purple thing active. Yeah, I'm calling it the purple thing. When he has the purple thing active, he does have energy res, and he heals a percentage of energy damage taken. When he also has that active, he nullifies any buff off the opponent. And this is important, because what you want to do for this fight is you want to have 5 out of 5 MD and the poison recoil mastery. It's hard to pull off for like it's hard to pull off, right? You have to really adjust your masteries in a very weird way, but if you do it, Diablo is one of the craziest options for this fight, period. Because you get to like spam SP2, you get to have so many poisons up, and yeah, once you drop that SP3, the fight ends pretty quickly, but it also gets a bit crazy. So I have to stand up for a second. I have to just get ready to explain what's about to happen. And nothing really changes in this fight when it comes to playstyle. Just dodge the SP1, try to intercept, sorry, and right there, be careful. Diablo doesn't have the highest health pool, and with like the physical resistance being down a ton, if you get hit, it's gonna hurt. But Diablo is Diablo, so he's gonna heal up a lot, and he's gonna be pretty healthy when it comes to like, you know, trying to withstand Onslaught. So let me explain while this is happening. I got to 8 Violamites, and once you have 8 of those, it's time for the SP3, and here's where things go haywire. So yeah, he's gonna drop the SP1, perfect. And after this, you have to intercept. You have to go for the intercept, because if you don't, you're going to take a ton of damage. So here I get the intercept. I drop the SP2. We're back at another SP2. And here he drops the SP1 again. Perfect. It's a lot. It's pretty crazy, right? He goes back in. I get the intercept one more time. I drop another SP2. And yeah, this should do it, because the poison is doing a ton of damage. He just stood there, which is not even fair, to be honest. I dropped the SP1 and then do a hit after that immediately to get the pause for the poisons. And yeah, with the pause up, this fight is now over. What a stressful sequence, right? But it's the only way to get this fight done in a good amount of time. And yeah, what a crazy, crazy fight that is. But there are your 3 options for this Onslaught fight. I hope it helps you. Let me know your thoughts on this video, and yeah, that's about it for me.